Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and I have the wonderful Charles Blevins here for today's conversation. He is one of our guides. I'll give us a couple of announcements before we start with the conversation. I think the biggest announcement, there's a few things. Welcome, Ty. Happy Monday. Put in the chat actually how you all are feeling. I would love to know where you're at and be real with it, right? Maybe you're feeling sad, maybe you're feeling excited. But today's conversation is all about how money won't buy you happiness. And typically during Motivational Monday, we do a Q&A. We are moving away from Q&A during Motivational Monday since it's just such a quick hitter conversation. And we'll be moving into doing that during our deep dive mentorship. So for those of you who don't know how Life Guides works, I've made it as easy as possible for you to get the most benefit from our guides with, for some of you, the least amount of work. So Motivational Monday is a quick hitter on Mondays. I don't know if you all know, but statistically, you're most likely to have a heart attack on a Monday morning, which is why I created this. I'm like, wow, people really, really don't like Mondays. The second Wednesday of every month, we have the deep dive. And that is, we've got our quarterly topic of financial well-being. This month, we're doing money mindset. We already did our deep dive into it with Alvaro. And then we did our deep dive mentorship, which is a live group session the third Wednesday of the month, where you guys come and ask your questions in regards to money mindset. And that was last Wednesday. And I am not kidding you. We were crying about money on that call. We were realizing the ways that we can start to feel empowered with money. We were understanding the ways that we were letting ourselves, excuse me, feel limited by the stories in our past. Goodness. Okay. Well, I might need some water. Charles, I'm just going to intro you now. This is Charles, one of our guides. I'm going to step off the camera for a moment. Charles, if you will tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, and intro us into the topic today, why money won't make you happier.
Sounds good. So, I started off in the Marine Corps and I got out, went into venture capital, got back into the military. I just recently was retired from the military, and in between doing military, I've maintained a small business for many years, uh, made sure I got my education, and have wonderful kids and a wonderful wife. Now, why money won't buy you happiness. Uh, from past experience, looking through going back to my parents, my grandparents, and looking at different people's lives, no matter how much money they had, they were just never happy. And when I look at all the moments that made everyone happy was being around family and doing things together. And then that made me start to wonder, well, what do you really need at the end of the day? Because of if chasing something isn't making you happy, then what you consider happiness has to come into question, whether it's money. And from that standpoint, I start paying attention to people talking about money as a tool. Uh, so I refer to money like a car. It's going to get me somewhere. And if I have a destination to get to, I need a particular vehicle that will get me to that destination. And so this is how we need to learn how to view our money. And I always give the saying of I looked at my father's life. Um, he was a contractor, an inventor. He was always chasing, always needed money. He could never have enough money to pay for things. And before his death, what I realized, he handed me a folder box, that you keep your vanilla envelopes in. And when I opened up the box, I thought it was going to be all of his dreams. And what his dreams were in that box was my baby pictures, me and my brothers, our school pictures, I could see our lives. So I had to break up the box and give it to my brother, his half, my half. But my father always carried that box around, and I was always curious what was in that box that was so important to him that no matter where he went, you always saw that box. And that told me a whole lot about him, that it wasn't about chasing the money and it wasn't about trying to accomplish his dreams. He had everything that he ever wanted right there. And it really changes your point of view. And then I looked at my grandfather. His house was so beat up. It looked like a hand-me-down. It was falling apart. I never paid attention to this beautiful house that I ended up buying. It sits in one of the richest neighborhoods in the country. It's a small town. It's Gomer Pileville. I never had locks on the doors until last year because we started traveling. Best education. My kids both went to college from it. There was so much resources there because of the community. So I was valuing the house based off of how it looked, not where the house was sitting at.
And the resources and the support and
Or,
the deeper layers of resource. And I think that's such a beautiful conversation as well, is money is a resource and we see money as a huge resource. And for those of you who are here, you can put 111 in the chat if you, I'm really curious, do you view money as the ultimate resource? And I ask you that because we do live in a society that very much teaches us that. And I was like that for a very long time, and very similar to Charles's story, I had to learn through life to realize that that was not necessarily the case. So I ran, for those of you who know astrology, I'm not going to get super deep into it, but I've got 6 Sagittarius placements. I am like the traveler, the explorer. Let me go see the world. Let me learn the world through exploring it. So I ran a business for 5 years. I traveled all around the country, some parts of the world, met amazing people, did amazing things, but I was traveling every 3 to 4 weeks and I was making money, but I was spending money. It was fine. After about 5 years of doing that, 4 or 5 years of doing that, I was so drained. And I thought that this endeavor that I was on, this business that I was doing was everything, and it matched my values and it matched what I wanted to do with my life, and it gave me the freedom to explore and travel. And those are all ideals that so many of us hold. And I want to know, drop 222 in the chat if you're at work every day dreaming about traveling, dreaming about being elsewhere, dreaming about a life that is not yours. Yeah, the 222s are flowing in. That was me, right? And usually it involves, I want to travel all over and have all the money in the world and be free. By the end of it, I was so sad and so unfulfilled and so lost. And I remember looking at my mentors and being like, I just feel like I'm lost out at sea. I can't see land. Having that much freedom also is not good for you. I didn't have any structure. I didn't have any support. All I had was like me and my boat and my freedom, but I didn't have any anchors tying me down. And what I realized was that my anchors are my family and my friends. And I realized that at the end of the day, and by the time this lifetime comes to an end, it's not going to be the money in my bank account that I'm so excited about. I do intend on making bukus of money in this lifetime. I do intend on rehabilitating certain communities and certain indigenous things, but I need money to do good things, not to just hoard for myself. But anywho, my transition was realizing that it's the laughs that I share and the hands that I held and the hugs that I hugged and the people that I got to look at and look in their eyes and see what really mattered and who they really were, that I'm going to look at in my life. And when I look back, it's going to be all of that. And it's going to be all the memories and all of the moments. And it's not necessarily going to be the money. And money does give us memories and money does give us moments. And before I ask Charles our next question, I've got one more question for you all in the chat. I am curious because we all think about it. This is real. We're all doing the same thing. How much money do you think that you need to have to be happy? And there's a scientific answer that most people typically say. And then there's scientific answers to what our actual truth is in regards to the body and what brings happiness. But yeah, some of you guys are like, I'm not even sure, but there's a lot of 222s in the chat. You guys are dreaming about living lives that are not your lives. So I'll let those money answers come through the chat as you guys are thinking about it. But, I think we've both talked a little bit about chasing money, Charles, and watching our families do it, maybe seeing ourselves do it a little bit, not understanding the value of things. I just moved into a community I just met my neighbors who helped me with my dresser. I left them a chocolate and a little thank you note. And I was like, I believe in community. If you ever need anything, call me. I moved here because I knew I would have support and I knew I would have people and I knew I'd be able to make them. So as we start realizing that maybe the money never brought the people the joy, what did those experiences, now that you're in a different phase of your life and having such a different perspective, what did they teach you about what people are really searching for when they think that they're chasing wealth? And I think your dad's story was a great starting point for that.
I think from paying attention to my own life and other people's lives, a lot of times it's just stopping, slowing down. These old sayings that keep coming back up throughout history, like stop and smell the roses. Have you smelt the flowers today? Have you smelt your own flowers that are in your life, whether it's your children, someone who you love, your parents, friends? That's what's valuable for you. And money only allows us to spend time with them, going out to eat, taking trips together, having experiences. And so at the end of the day, in the heat of everything, when you're so worried about how am I paying this month's mortgage or the rent, how am I putting food on the table, have you stopped today to smell your own flowers? And I think these old sayings are so true and they do not change with time. And that's the most valuable thing I want people to understand. Take the time, even when you're so stressed out and you're worried, smell your own flowers.
Can you give us like I've got a real life example that I do in my life all the time, but can you give us maybe an example where someone, and I want you to tie it in because you all know that I love neuroscience and habits. Charles, I want you to tie it in to maybe when we're brushing our teeth in the morning. It's something that we have to do every morning already. What's the thing that we're going to start thinking about? Yes, we might be stressed with money. Yes, we have the bills. Yes, we might be living above our means. We're doing this course. We're doing financial well being for the whole quarter. We're going to get good. We've got guides like Charles who can help you. So we have all that stress. Fine. It's all there. We're brushing our teeth. What are we going to think about on the positive side in the morning, starting our day, brushing our teeth?
So, a few years ago, I had this aha moment awakening. And up until that point, I wasn't grateful that I was alive. It was just assumed that I would get up and every day I was going to be living, I was going to stay young. And that wasn't the reality. I wasn't grateful. And then I start watching people die off around me. And I'm like, hold on. So even before I get to brushing my teeth, before I get out of my bed, whether you believe in religion or not, you should show some gratitude that you woke up. It's a whole day for you to have wonderful experiences, whatever you want to do in your life today. It's another chance, it's another day. The only time that you make a mistake is the mornings that you don't wake up because you can't have a new experience. You can't fix or try to attempt to readjust something that you've done wrong. The game's over for you. So the way I look at it is I'm just grateful to be alive. It doesn't matter about money, it doesn't matter about the harshness. I have a choice today. I don't have to work if I don't want to. I can work harder if I want to. I can hug someone more than I normally would give them a hug. I
Mm.
can be kinder today. I can choose to do all these things. So being grateful is the most gratitude you can give yourself. It has nothing to do with religion. You can take it to whatever extreme you want to, but just being grateful. And that changed my life profoundly.
It does. They say, it's so funny, right? Because you're sitting here saying, stop and smell the roses and be grateful. And these are things that we've all heard so many times. None of this is new to a single person on here unless you're a newborn baby. And even then, maybe you heard someone whispering those in the hospital. But it's so funny because sometimes it's the simplest things that they don't really make full sense until they start making full sense. And I want to circle back. We were talking about what that number was for some people that would bring them happiness and fulfillment. So the lowest number I see is 75K, and the highest number I see is 400K. Now, what's really cool, I love seeing that because there's science to this. When you start studying the science of does money bring people happiness, you'll see that there will be a direct correlation between more money and more happiness up until ding, 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 Gabrielle, 75K. Once you hit $75,000, and have that for yourself. You have that stability, you know that that's coming in. It's a little bit different if you work based on commissions. I did that for lots of years, but once you have that and that stability, it's scientifically proven that you do not get happier with more money. So what does 75K mean? If you guys looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic hierarchy of needs are you need a home. You need a support system. You need all of your basic resources covered. So when we start to look at 75K, that standard average in the world that we live in now will do that for most people if they're living within their means and if they're not just being in extravagance, right? But once you start getting above that 75K, it does not correlate to more happiness. And I think it leads into lifestyle creep, what we've talked about, where when you make more money, you spend more money. I also think that it leads into the truth that 50% of people making $100,000 or more are living paycheck to paycheck. If I was making that much money living paycheck to paycheck, I would still be stressed. So yeah, Kalina, I think that's maybe valid. I'm not sure. I always look at my perspective from a single person with no kids, so maybe. But maybe you research a little bit more and you're like, okay, what is my number for myself? What does my life look like? What do I need as a baseline to satisfy my needs financially? What can I start putting away? Where are the places that I spend too much money? Where are the things that I want to be a little bit more financially aware of? So money brings us happiness to a point. Once money brings us security and a home and actual resources that we get to call our own and come back to, after that, it doesn't really do much more for us. So, Charles, you and I have talked about this conversation. And when we were planning for this conversation, we were having some conversations. And you said, even today, once you realized that you had everything that you needed and you stopped the chase, how did that change the way that you approached life and money afterwards? So I understand that it's changed your life. I understand that you now have incredible gratitude and that you see life in a new world. Now that you've pivoted and changed your perspective and changed that direction, what has that done for you?
It's it's given me freedom, and it's it gave me time. I get to spend more time with my loved ones. And that gave me the great freedom. Now I have the choice. Do I want to go on a date with my wife? And I tell everyone I'm not married. I'm dating for 20 something years.
I love it.
I don't even wear my wedding ring anymore because I have to remind myself I'm on a date.
Mm.
And um, but I have more time, that time to spend with the people that I love and to help people that I choose that I want to help. And so now at my stage of life that I'm not worried about money, I have the ability to help other people.
Can I stop you there real quick? I wanna understand. Are you not worried about money because you've put yourself in a good financial position because your perspective has changed? Or are you not worried about money because you realize that there are other things that are more important? Or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. So about 5 years ago, I had put into my mind, and this is where I go message boards and leaving yourself little notes. They are magic. So I put on there that I will retire in 12 months, and I stuck it underneath my pillow for about a year and a half. I didn't know how I was retiring, and I didn't really realize what opportunities I had that were always sitting there because I was so busy chasing the money to cover the bills that I wasn't paying attention to what was there. And this is where smelling the roses really brings you back and gets you out of the chaos so you can see everything that's in front of you instead of narrow. When we
Mm,
get narrow, it's because we're concentrating so sometimes so focused we miss sight of everything else around us. So when I did that, something in that course of the year started clicking with me because every night I would read that little note, stick it underneath my pillow. I will retire within by the end of the year. And it kept changing from 12 months to the end of the year. And I was retired. And, when I look at it, I laugh. But that's how my life has always been since I was a child. So when I was a child, I was dreaming I would have multiple degrees. I would have a nice house. I'm an adult. It's my dream from a child isn't so far off from where I'm at now. I
mm,
have my kids, I have my house, I have multiple degrees, I have my retirement. So it's it's like everything came together from when I was a child, and I've been living out that dream as that child growing up. It doesn't match it picture perfect, but 90% there. So
wow.
I can't complain. What is a good life? And everything up until this point has been for the experience. I wouldn't give up those experiences for anything in the world, but I never realized what I had. And, to come back to what you're saying, I live off of less than $75,000 a year. And I have everything that I need and then more. And people sit back and they laugh. You're so poor. But am I?
What is the true wealth?
What
What
is
determines poorness or not? I
not?
would rather have hardly any money and have my best friends and my family around me and be like, oh my God, are you kidding me? It's about to be Christmas season. Cool. Catch me on a Sunday inviting all of my friends over for a potluck, watching The Grinch. Give me that. If someone said you could have that or you could have $1 million, what would I take? I would take that.
Yeah.
That's fullness and that's wealth. So I want you to start giving us, we have maybe 5-ish minutes left, Charles. I want you to give us your basic financial foundational advice. I know you have a 1 rule, a 2 rule, and maybe a 3 rule.
Yes.
Dive
So
into that.
quick scenario, 1-to-1. So you are one person. Whatever you put out is what you're going to get. So the max you can get is one. And so if you look at everything in your life from work to relationships, whatever you put out, that's all you can get.
Can I stop you? I want to give you guys an example. You all have heard me say, I am just one little Kira. In this moving, in all the things that I do, I am just one person. I have a finite output, is what he is saying. When you operate as an individual doing your things, what you give out is what you receive, 1 to 1. So continue.
Okay. So what I call investing, every day we're all investing. So you can invest into relationships, you can invest into yourself as far as knowledge, education, to get you better income. So when you're doing investing, I call that 1 to 2. So you're hoping to get two out. So let's go with a relationship since everyone's had them. You start dating. So now you're investing, you're taking time because you're curious. You see something of interesting that brings value to your life. If the dating goes bad, you're mad at the person, but really you're mad at yourself because you made a bad investment. So it's just like when I invest in the stock market. If I make a bad investment, I'm mad at myself. I can't blame the stock market. So the other
Mm,
person isn't the problem. You made a bad investment. So now you have to go back and rethink about your investing because you're trying to get more out of something. So relationships. I invest time into my parents or into my children because I'm getting something out of it. So I am investing.
Mm,
We can call it emotional love, everything else, but at the end of the day, I'm investing something into it to get something out. So that's a 1 to 2 ratio. Savings. You can only save so much. So I can cut out coffee if I want to, buying it at Starbucks, make it at home. I'll save a few dollars. But I can only save so much. At some point in time, you can't save anymore. And I tell people, don't deny yourself the experience. If you need that Starbucks coffee once or twice a week, go get the Starbucks coffee because it'll make you feel good in the crappy times. But don't consume so much that you're spending $500, $600 a month at Starbucks. So you have to be rational in certain things. What I
mm,
do tell people to do is if your expenses are beyond your income, you need to cut back your expenses so that you can save or invest. So at the end of the day, we're saving money to invest for a future date. In other words, if I'm 20 years old and my max income at 20 is $20,000, how much of that money can I invest, whether it's into my education, into the stock market for the long term? I need to always think about where can I invest my money? I'm saving, so I'm cutting my expenses to invest. Here's a good example. For me to save, I go to Sam's Club once a month. I buy a big brisket. I take it home. I chop it up into small pieces. We turn part of it into hamburger meat. I saved myself about $600 in shopping for the month by
wow.
going to Sam's Club, buying in bulk, and taking an hour to cut up the meat, throw it in the freezer, and do it myself instead of going out to the grocery store and spending more money than what I need to. So there's ways to save money, and that frees up money. So every month I will stash so much money goes directly into the stock market without a thought. I don't think about it. It goes in. It's automatically pulled out of my main account. It goes right into my trading account. And that money I know is for stocks. I do not touch it unless it's for stock. So I want people to think in their lives 1 to 1, the max output. Have I maxed out my potential of income? Have I maxed out my potential of happiness, my
Mm,
potential of getting the things that I need? 2, where can I save money at? Cut expenses. And 3, everything is about investing. I'm investing in something, my future, my family, my children, my loved ones, the person who I want to marry, the person who I want to date. I'm always investing. And if you look at life as a mathematical equation in that sense, you'll be so much more happier because and then you always have an agenda to do that's going to get you something in your life that you need right here, right now, and yet you're still thinking about tomorrow.
thank you so much for that. Perfect timing. 1, 2, and 3, everyone. Look at your life. Take a little bit of an inventory. Start to see the places that you thought things would bring you happiness and they didn't. And start to look at the places where you can just find more fulfillment in every day. So Charles is one of our guides with Life Guides. What we do with at Life Guides is we've built all of our events to get you as close as possible to our guides so that you can start a guide journey. Because a lot of us know where we want to go, but we don't have the map to get there. And we spend a lot of time and a lot of energy just figuring out how to get there. When someone like Charles, you can schedule one call with him, you can start a roadmap and start looking like what your journey would look like to maybe have more happiness and fulfillment in your life and maybe even have a little bit more money in the process. So thank you all so much everyone for being here. Charles's link is directly in the chat. If you would like to reach out to us, you're more than welcome to. There's always a button on our Life Guides app. You can talk to us there. And there's a survey that pops up at the end. So fill that out, leave any love letters for Charles and I. I'll make sure that he gets his. And we will see you next Monday for Motivational Monday. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.